Man, these prices have gone through the roof. Hi everyone, it's a 4Gun Guy. And today I want to do a very basic comparison of off-the-shelf versus reloading costs over the years. So I want to look at some invoices that I had from years ago, 2018, 2019. I want to compare those costs with the costs today. Let's see how each of those two has risen, the reloading costs and the off-the-shelf costs. And then let's talk about, is there a break even between the two? So if we're going to shoot for a year, for 3 years, for 5 years, for 10 years, let's go way out there and see as we're consuming these materials and this ammo over matches and practice sessions and breaking in new barrels or truing our dope, the little things like that that we don't really think about when we think about what all this costs us. Let's see if there is a break even there. So let's get on to the analysis and comparison. If you're ready to go, let's get to it. Okay, I'm going to say two things here. Get ready for a wild ride from a money perspective, and do not show this to your spouse. So those are the two things. All right. So here's what I did. I said, all right, let's talk about this, and I'll show this up on the screen too. Average rounds over time. Breaking in a new barrel, truing your dope, all of that stuff over a year. I said, let's say it's 300 rounds, okay? Then I said, let's practice for 10 months out of the 12 months, because there may be 2 months that it's too cold, it's too stormy, we don't go to matches, we don't practice. So let's say 10 months out of the year, we're practicing and shooting matches. So for practicing 10 months, 100 rounds, we go to the range, we do a lot of dry firing. Maybe we go twice, we do dry firing, then we practice with some live rounds. So 2 sessions at 50 rounds each, 1 session at 100, whatever you want to do. I just put 100 rounds there. Then I said for matches, even though today we're shooting less rounds in a match, generally we're up around 90 rounds roughly for a match. You're still going to go there. You're going to you make sure your dope is, or your scope is zeroed, your rifle is zeroed. If you're allowed to, which we are at some of the matches we shoot, you're going to be able to true your dope out there. Make sure your dope is trued, right? Validate your dope. So all of that takes time. And invariably, you're sitting there, things just don't quite look right. You're spending some rounds getting in the groove for the match. So I put 120 rounds per match. So that really comes out to, in 1 year, if you're going to shoot PRS, you're going to run through about 2,500 rounds, which means in 3 years, 7,500, in 5 years, 12,500, and in 10 years, a whopping 25,000 rounds to shoot PRS if you're still doing it in 10 years. So with all of that taken into consideration, let's break this down into the various cartridges, okay? Okay, so from an all-up standpoint, let's look at this. 2019, my 6.5 Creedmoor was running me about, and this is just for these materials, guys. This is just for the powder, the primers, the case, and the bullet, okay? This is not including the equipment, which I'm going to get to in a little bit. If we look at the cartridge cost, it's about a 22% increase, right? 64.5 cents to 78.5 cents. The 6mm BRA, if I'm using Varget along with, say, an SMK, Sierra Match King with the Alpha case, 75.5 2019, 86.5 today. And if we were using those Burger bullets with Varget powder, it would be 81.5 in 2019, and now it's 94.5 cents today for a cartridge. So when I reload this round, or today, it's costing me about 87 cents to reload that round. So with all that said, let's look at off-the-shelf prices now. Well, I'm going to say it right now, and I should have said this at the reloading section, is this is not all inclusive, right? I know there's much cheaper components out there and much more expensive components out there. So let's just take this all with kind of a grain of salt. This is just kind of a comparison of what's the general direction things are going. So for an off-the-shelf perspective, let's start with what I was shooting when I first got into PRS. When I first got into PRS, I was using the Hornady match with the ELDM bullets off the shelf. And in February of 2019, that was running around $1.12 per round, okay? March 2024, right now it's about $1.68 to $2 a round. You can find those rounds. For federal non-typical, which generally wouldn't use for PRS stuff, but it's gone up to about 22 cents a round. Hornady Precision Hunter, which you might use for PRS, that's gone up about 55 cents a round. And if we get into things like the Nosler Trophy grade, and guys, I did a video on all of these a long time ago, and it was amazing to see that the cheaper ammo compared to mine was better than the really expensive ammo at the time. So take that with a grain of salt. Nosler Trophy grade 187 to 275. Winchester Expedition 143 to 230. So some pretty good increases here in the off-the-shelf ammunition. What I want to do now is let's compare these, because you know I love my Excel spreadsheets. So we're going to talk about what this means over time and from a reloading standpoint when we factor in all this equipment. All right, I want to start with the 6.5 Creedmoor. Reloaded ammo at the top in green. And let's look at the 1 year cost, right? So 1 year cost, I averaged it out for reloaded at $3.22 a round. And some of you are going to go, what the heck? Why is it so expensive? Because at the end of 1 year, if you bought all this equipment I have, and this number is based on a middle of the road quality reloading stack of equipment, right? I didn't go high-end Mac Daddy, and I didn't go, you know, I'm using tweezers to load the kernels in my case. So this is kind of middle of the road-ish. And if you add in the cost of the equipment, you'd be at about $3.22 a round. The factory ammo on that 6.5 Creedmoor, if you just went to the store and bought an average cost of $2.29 a round, that's what it's gonna be, roughly $2.29. If you got in between the super high-end 6.5 Creedmoor ammo and the super crummy low-end 6.5 Creedmoor ammo, which you're not gonna hit any targets with, this is really my Hornady ELDM, the match grade cartridges. Could get it cheaper, it could be more expensive. I'm just using this as an average, guys. So again, at the end of 1 year, you would have spent $8,050 on reloading those 2,500 rounds, and off the shelf, you would have only spent $57.25. If you go over to 3 years, which if you shoot PRS, you're going to be in it for 3 years because you're going to get hooked. Off the shelf, you'd be into it for $13,125 because your average cost comes down to $1.75 because I'm spreading the cost of that equipment over the number of cases or the cartridges that we're reloading. I didn't get super detailed into, well, now I've got to get some more tumbling media and all that stuff. I averaged some of that in there, but overall, this is a rough estimate of what it might cost. But that factory ammo, if prices stayed the same at $229, you'd be $13,125 in the reloaded, and you'd be $17,175 in the factory. So already we can see a separation of what? $4,050 between those two over 3 years. So somewhere around a year, 2.5, I think, or 2 is the break even for this. If we go down into the 5-year and 10-year, it's a pretty drastic change, right? You're saving a pretty big amount of money. I would say 5 years is about what people are staying in PRS center fire shooting, and I think some of that is because of these numbers. I think over the years people start to go, man, this is pretty expensive, right? When you're looking at a 3-year cost up here of $13,000 to reload. This doesn't include the gas to get there. The fees for the match doesn't include that. All of that starts to come into play. Here you're looking at about $4,500 a year. That's a pretty good chunk of change just for the ammo to shoot the match with. That's all this is. So that's the 6.5 Creedmoor. If I go to the 6mm BRA that I have, the numbers are a little different. That ammo is a little more expensive for factory ammo, but let's stick with the reloaded ammo. An average of $291 a round on the first year. On the second year, it drops to $144 because of the equipment costs. And you can see that the difference in the first year, again, it's more expensive to reload. In the second year, it's a pretty huge difference there between those two. It's a much larger difference than the 6.5 Creedmoor. And then if we take those out to the 5 and 10 year numbers, you can see that that's even just a gigantic difference between reloading and off-the-shelf ammo, assuming prices stay the same. Okay, so that's really where I had it. I did throw in, and let's talk about this briefly because I'm going to do a whole nother video on this topic, but I want to throw this in here. Let's talk about the 22 rounds, right? 22 matches for PRS. If I show that up here, there's no reloading. You're not going to reload your 22 ammunition, but you can see that the average cost per year for year one on that is $612, much cheaper than centerfire. Over the 3-year period, you're at $1,837, and at the 5-year, you're at $3,000. At the 10-year, you're at $6,000 for the ammo because there's no equipment involved there, right, for reloading. So all of that goes away, and that's a much cheaper section of the sport to get into. So with all that said, let's talk about some considerations that we have, factory versus reload, and let's just do that in final thoughts. Well, there you have it. And again, guys, please take this with a grain of salt, right? It's not down to the exact kernel of powder and all that stuff. But I think it's a fairly good representation of, number one, where costs have gone over the years. Number two, that it used to be a little bit cheaper further out in time to use off-the-shelf ammunition. But I think that's really, really been shortened with the cost of off-the-shelf ammunition going up as much as it has. I mean, it is ridiculous. I used to get that ELDM match I remember when I first started I think I got it for $23 a box for 20. That's a dollar, whatever, $1.10 a round. And now it's much more than that. It's $35 to $40 for a box, which is just ridiculous. So those costs have really gone up. As I said, for the materials here, the components of reloading. Yes, the costs have gone up, but I find that it's more of the getting your hands on this stuff than anything else. So when something comes up, I'll buy it, I'll have it, and I'm good to go. Let's talk about these considerations, and I'm going to put this up here too. Accuracy. So do we think we're going to be as accurate with off the shelf as we are with our reloaded ammunition? I know some guys that are having some pretty darn good results with off the shelf ammo, and some of that ammo is that Hornady match grade off the shelf, the white box in their 6.5 Creedmoor. And I think I know some guys with six Creedmoors that are having really good luck with similar ammunition or even that ammunition. So I think the reloading gives you much more control over your velocities, your SDs, your extreme spreads, grouping, truing. Certainly, I think it does. I don't think you have the extreme spread issues that you have with factory ammo. But again, let's talk about this for 1 second. I've said this in other videos. I go to a match. It's 8 stages. 3 of the stages have long-range targets. The matches I've shot so far this year, I've only shot 2 or 3, no targets were beyond 900 yards. When I shoot a match, I'm not worried about the 1,000-yard target. I did a video on this, right? Out of 90 shots, 2 shots are on a 1,000-yard target. If I hit it, that's great. I'm not spending a lot of time on it because generally that stage is a walkout stage and walk back stage. 6, 7, 8, 9, 1,000, 1,000, 9, 8, 7, 6, 10 shots. I want to make sure that I don't time out when I get to the 700 target, which I have a really good high confidence of impacting. So I won't spend a lot of time on that 1,000-yard target. For the guys who win the matches, that's a big deal. They're much better at time management and can see their stuff, so it's different. But I'm just saying, don't get hung up so much on my ESs are better with the reloaded ammo than the factory ammo, and that matters, but it doesn't matter out to necessarily. It doesn't matter again, depending on the ammo you buy. Buy good ammo. And you should be okay out to 800 yards easy with the factory ammo. So I would say here, if you buy crappy off-the-shelf ammo, yeah, you're going to have bad results. If you buy good, decent off-the-shelf ammo, you're going to have better results. Less quality components. Now, when we talk about reloading, now I'm talking about the components themselves. So I was at a match with a buddy of mine. He's a great guy. He was a sniper in the military, and he's got some stories. But he couldn't find CCI primers, so he was using primers. Oh my gosh, that guy had some issues not every stage, but most stages of that match. And a lot of those issues were contributed to that other brand of primer. I'll probably bleep out the brand I just mentioned. But anyway, he realized that that's all he had, so that's all he could use until he got a hold of some of these things here. So yeah, don't go with the cheap stuff. For example, right, this is a ELDM bullet. I also use the Sierra Match Kings. Make sure you're matching the weight of that bullet and the bullet with your cartridge, so you get that round that's going to work well in your rifle, right? So I would say don't skimp a lot on the components. Powders, same thing, right? This is H4350, very temp stable powder. I use H4895 for my 6mm BRA, very temp stable powder. But if you use a different powder, make sure that and I talked about this in my velocity video, make sure that you're using a powder that if it is not temp stable, that's okay. Just make sure that you may need to have a load for the cooler weather and a load for the hot summer weather, because you want to keep that ES spread as less as possible, right? As low as possible. So that's all I'm saying there. Now, number three, when you miss, will you know it was you, or will you start questioning that box ammo you bought off the shelf? If I miss with this stuff, it's me. It is me. It is not this. It's not my rifle. When I missed with the box stuff, I always had it in the back of my mind that, maybe I got one that that this round was 50 feet per second slower than that round was, and they just happened to be side by side, right? So you'll think about that. More difficult to tune your factory cartridge could be, again, if you've got those wide variations in your extreme spread, because now you're dealing with a difference in velocity, that I hit a truing bar at 800 yards this shot, and the next shot on a calm day, everything's great. So let me preface with that. But the next shot is 2 feet low, or 1 foot low, or 7 inches or 8 inches low, which will miss that truing bar. If you've got a truing bar that this tall at 800 yards away, you could miss that bar. And then you're going to start questioning your factory ammo. So, look, there you have it. I wanted to kind of keep this short. I don't know that I did or not, but I wanted to bring this up, the fact that the costs have gone up. I think the space, the time between breaking even, between reloading and off-the-shelf ammo has really come down. And so you may want to consider reloading. I wouldn't make that decision. If I could give you any advice, I would say don't make that decision until you've shot PRS for, say, that first year, because you may get burned out on it. You may not like it. Other things in your life might change, right? You may, all of a sudden you're going to have a baby and you got to spend that money on something else, not reloading. So a lot of things may affect your specific decision, but I would say start with off-the-shelf ammo, get into PRS, see if you absolutely love it, and go from there. You may want to start, I'm going to say this in my other video, you may want to start with 22s, right? Get a decent 22 rifle. You don't have to spend many thousands of dollars on one, but get one off-the-shelf ammo, try it, and see if you even like this sport, the movement and the targets and all that other stuff. Because there's a whole lot of different stuff beyond what we just talked about today that you've got to get into, right? You've got to get you have to get a ballistics device or ballistics app. You're going to want some binoculars, a good tripod, a few bags, shooting bags. There's a whole lot of other stuff that you're going to get into in the sport that we're not covering here. This is just on the reloading versus off-the-shelf ammo. So I hope you like this one. Thanks for sticking in there, hanging in there with me and watching. And the likes, the comments, the subs, I really do appreciate them all, guys. And until next time, shoot straight.